Welcome to the Undiscovered Gems podcast, hosted by NBA legend and business powerhouse Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds.
Hi, world, and welcome to another show of Undiscovered Gems. We have a great guest with us today. He's our professional of the year, and the reason why? He's one of the best mediators out there. He's a mediator for families, for the elderly, for divorce, and a bunch of other areas that we need full knowledge of that we just don't know. And I have no idea how the elderly works because that's a tough one. Everyone, welcome Gary J. Santucci. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charles. Nice to be here.
Great. Gary, we need to hop into this. I know this show goes very quickly and there's a lot of content. You have a lot to share with us, and these are great gems. So first, tell us, how did you become a mediator? How did you get into that part of the business?
Well, I've been a psychotherapist for a very long time, and I just wanted to kind of expand the practice and do something very different. So I've been thinking about family mediation, becoming a mediator for a few years. Back in 2000, I became a mediator. I did the whole thing to become a mediator. And so I've been certified family mediator now since 2000. So about 25 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you mediate a lot of complicated issues in today's society, and it's always been complicated. Number one is divorce.
Yes.
Two is like dealing with the elderly. We always have problems with our elderly where everybody wants the proper care, but not all family members are on the same sides of what they see as proper care.
That's correct. Yes.
You've also done psychotherapy from the ages 5 to 80.
Yes.
And so let's start off with divorce, the big D.
The big D.
How do you go, and you got two people coming into your office.
Yes.
And they sit down in front of you. What's your intake? How do you start that process?
Well, I'm going to talk to them about wanting to put together an agreement that's fair and equitable to both parties. I wouldn't ask anyone to sign an agreement that wasn't fair and equitable. So we want it to be an amicable experience as much as possible. Doesn't always happen that way, but most of the time it can. When they've come to me, usually they've made the decision to get the divorce. They don't want to use attorneys. Using a family mediator is certainly much less expensive than hiring two lawyers. In Florida, where I'm from, most judges, in fact, I think 99% of the judges do order mediation. So if you're going to use lawyers, you're going to end up in mediation anyway. This is an opportunity for both of you to put together an agreement. And when it's an amicable and fair and equitable settlement, it generally is, it goes very smoothly. It's kind of a quick experience. It doesn't take years. Most mediations probably are 2, 3, maybe 4 sessions at the most. And at the end of it, you have an agreement that is going to be the divorce agreement. And that has to do with being divorced with minor children. That has to do with being divorced without minor children. So that's a simple dissolution of marriage. And I think the experience overall is far more positive. I say to them, you've already fought the fight. That's why you're here. So there's really nothing more to fight about. There's just so much money. You can't get any more than what is available. You have children. Obviously, you want what's best for your children. And so those are the primary issues that we're dealing with in mediation. Once we resolve those, everything else kind of falls into place. So
yeah. And it's easier. Obviously, it's easier said than done because I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of mindsets that were just off balance as far as what's fair and equitable. I mean, you get people that their minds are in the stratosphere of what they think could and it is actually possible. And I'm sure there's one thinking like that and the other's not. How do you pull that person back to somewhat of a reality standpoint to get it done?
When you talk about money, and divorce is about children and money, not necessarily in that order. And when you talk about money, there's a trust issue because is one party hiding money from the other party? We want it to be mandatory disclosure. We want it to be transparent. We want there to be honesty and being able to talk about all the assets and all the liabilities and not to hide anything. So if that happens like that and people are honest and transparent, it runs very smoothly. But if there are trust issues, then it becomes very suspicious. You're hiding money from me. You have more money than you're telling me, and you have more debt. And why are you hiding these debts? And how am I going to live on the money that you want to give me? And so on. So there's all these kinds of things. And so we have to sort that out. And most of the time it happens like rather smoothly. But there are those times when it's very contentious. And sometimes it's so contentious that people cannot proceed with mediation. There's hostility and anger and frustration and fear. Fear's a really big part of it because you're going into an unknown. People that have never been divorced and use a mediator, they're going into an unknown. What's that life going to be like? What's that life going to be like for our children? I don't know what that's like. I've never done that before. So there's all those things that are part of it. It can be very emotional. And so as the mediator, I'm not going to be emotional about that. I'm going to be neutral. And my role is to facilitate the fair and equitable agreement.
So, Gary, what about the fact that you just mentioned that they're going into the unknown? You become the first stop of the unknown. Somebody on either side selected you. They went to a process. Somehow they got into your office. Yes. With you knowing that, how do you approach them to try to take away the anxiety, the fear, and the trust issues dealing with you so that they both feel like you're the right person for the both of them?
First, I have a very comfortable setting. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be able to ask any questions that they feel they need to ask. If they don't understand anything that we're talking about, I want them to ask me about that. If I don't know the answer, I will definitely find the answer. I want them to be totally informed of the process, totally informed of the possibilities, totally informed of what could happen in some of the outcomes, and that it's a binding contract. And if you have young children, say your children are 2, 3, 4, that's a very long-term contract until they're 18. So, those are things that you have to take into consideration. If you don't have minor children, then you're just talking about what the assets and the liabilities are. So if those are on the table and honest and transparent, the process can be very easy. But getting there sometimes takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and also some flexibility on the parties. They need to be.
Right.
It can't be, I want everything and I'm not going to give you anything. That never works.
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of go through the same dilemma in all subject matters because you're a mediator and moving toward the elderly. I've spent time in China, and it's almost a rule that when someone's aging, they stay in the house, period, end of story. One of the children are taking care of the parent. They don't put them in homes like we do here.
Right.
So mediation here could be a little tougher. How is that? How is dealing with siblings, parents, I shouldn't say parents, brother, sister, and dealing with an elderly person that's maybe moving into a home and you got others that don't want that to happen?
So there are a few issues that come into play with elder mediation. For example, there could be a power of attorney. One of the siblings has the power of attorney. The other sibling doesn't like how that sibling is handling things. So that becomes contentious. I don't agree with what you're doing, so I'm going to challenge that. Even though you are the power of attorney and you can make these decisions, I don't like the decisions that you're making. So generally that comes to mediation, and then the mediator is there to help sort it out, to give them both an opportunity to express their feelings, express their views, and also with the emphasis on what's the best outcome for the elderly person. What is the best outcome, and how can we reach that together? Working together. You're a family. You've been a family all your life. Sure. How can we achieve that outcome by working together? Right. So that's the emphasis that I try to impose on the mediation.
Right. So, what rights does a family member have when someone else has power of attorney and they're making decisions? What rights do they have to actually even challenge it?
I don't think that they have any legal right. They can challenge the
Mm,
power of attorney. Okay, and this becomes very emotional. Um,
yes, yes.
so when you bring emotions into anything, it changes everything instantly.
Mm,
And so when you're talking about the emotions, you're trying to sort out the emotions, trying to help people understand that to be contentious is not giving you the outcome that you want. It's not going to resolve anything. And it's only going to create more resentment, more bitterness, more anger, more fighting. And again,
mm,
that's not helpful to the elderly person who is sometimes, most of the time, not even present for these mediations because maybe the elderly person is impaired, um, maybe suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, which is becoming far more prevalent than ever before in our society. So
mhm.
that person is not necessarily present. So you're dealing with, and sometimes you're dealing with multiple siblings, not just one or two siblings.
Right, right,
You
right,
could be
right.
dealing with 5, 6, 7 siblings, and they all have opinions, and they all have what they think should be the way things end up. And so, as a mediator, you're just trying to sort all that out and creating a cohesive outcome. And sometimes that's kind of tricky.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Well, and dealing with the various siblings, talk about one of your tougher cases you've had to mediate. Let's hear let's hear something that you've really struggled with and got through.
There was a situation probably about 10 years ago, and this wasn't an elderly mediation. It was a divorce mediation, but both parties were in their 70s. So they had been married a substantial number of years. I think it was like
Wow,
45 years or something like that, a long, long time. And
wow.
they had reached a point where they wanted a divorce. They had accumulated a tremendous number of assets. They had like 3 children who were by that time adults. And what happened was that the 3 children were interfering with the divorce. I didn't necessarily know that at first, but they were
Hmm.
siding with one parent over the other. And so after a couple of sessions, it came to be that we were aware that the 3 children were siding with one of the parents. That created a strong bias. And
Mm,
what we did is we had a separate mediation with the 3 children and the 2 parents. And we were able, after probably 2 sessions, to be able to finally resolve that. That was very, very difficult. That
mm.
mediation took probably total, I'd say about 8 or 9 sessions before we
Wow.
were able to reach agreement. And the thing about it was, at the end, there was just so much money. That was it. There wasn't any more. I think the children were worried that they weren't going to get the money once the parents passed away. And
Mm,
I think that was really one of the points that one of the children were making. Well, what's going to happen to us? And if he has all this money, what's he going to do with it? He doesn't plan on giving it to us and all that. Well, he never said that. And so
right.
that was a lot of misunderstanding. Once we were able to clarify the misunderstandings, it was a different approach, and we were finally able to reach agreement. But
Yeah, I'm just
it was a long struggle. That mediation took probably over a period of probably 10 months, and that generally doesn't happen like that.
right.
Mhm.
Well, it also generally doesn't happen that somebody's been married for 45 years and 70 years of age and they're going through divorce.
That's right.
That's when you said that, I was like, wow.
Think
That's
about that one, right?
yeah, that's a tough one.
You just finally
So you're
realized after 45 years you didn't want to be together.
wow. I
Yeah,
can't. It's hard to believe, but
yeah,
that happens. So in your sessions, we went through COVID, and a lot of people are doing things online.
yes.
Are you still doing mediations online, and what is the difference? Can you be as successful online as you can in person?
I believe you can.
Hmm,
Just like you and I are talking right now, mediation happens the same way on the platform.
sure.
So I see them, they see me, I can hear everything, they can hear everything. And we're just doing a negotiation like they were sitting in front of me. And, for mediation, I can see one party say that's in Florida and another party that's in another state. And I can do that at a mediation session. So the telehealth part, the virtual works fantastic. It's just wonderful to be able to do that, and works great with therapy too. So yeah, it does that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have various people in the mediation field. How do you stay on top of your game? Are there courses? How do you continue to learn to be at the top and remain the best and to be the best at your craft?
Every 2 years, you have to renew your certification.
Mm.
So you have to have 16 hours of continuing education. You can do that either by taking a course in person, or you can do it online, or you can do a combination of the two. And so generally I do a combination of the two. I try to attend and do an 8-hour session to meet other mediators, in person. And then the other time I do the 8 hours online.
Right.
Every 2 years. And I do that for my license, my therapy license as well. Every 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Now you've mediated so many sessions in so many different fields. Do you still, at this stage in your career, do you still learn from your clients? Are you always learning new things that come up?
Every time you always learn. You're always learning. I think that's what makes this for me very stimulating, because you're always learning new things. You're always aware of things that you weren't aware of before. And then you're learning more about people and how people feel and what they're thinking and what's motivating them and what's driving them. So for me, it's just a never-ending education. It's constant, continuous. I like that. I like that a lot.
Right. What's and let's say the last 2 or 3 years, can you recall a nuance that you've been doing it for a long time and you've come into a situation with some clients and you're like, now that's a new one. Have you had that experience in the last couple of years?
I think that COVID had a lot to do with that. People were locked up for a long period of time. They were forced to spend a lot of time together. And for some people, that didn't work out very well. Some people, it drew them closer together, but some people, it drove them further apart. And I think that there were probably more divorces that occurred from COVID because people just got fed up with each other and started arguing, and those arguments didn't stop, and it ended up where they just separated and ended up divorced.
Now,
they realized that they actually realized that they couldn't stand each other by spending so much time together. So, yeah, I think that was an interesting outcome for one of the interesting outcomes of COVID. Yes.
Yeah. You and through COVID, when I hear COVID, I think of a lot of the things that people went through, anxiety.
Yes.
I was on the board of a college, board of directors of a college, and when school got back into session physically, there weren't enough counselors to deal with the students who had anxiety issues.
Yes.
Now, your background, you do anger management from a psychological background, from 5 to 80. So you do all these things.
Yes.
That must play into your field of mediation, because now you're dealing with different people and you can see some of the issues they may have, that now you're doing the psychological work and the mediation.
Yes. Yes.
Have you had to pull a client aside and deal with them on particular issues that you saw to get them to get into the flow of the mediation?
For example, sometimes when I have the intro session, I want to talk about it being amicable. Well, sometimes it's not amicable, and it gets nasty, and there's name calling and things along those lines. They're just fighting like they always have. And so then I pause the mediation and I take them separately and talk to them separately about what they're doing and what the purpose of this whole mediation is.
Sure.
And, are they ready to move forward, but in an amicable way. And I remind them, like I said earlier, you've already fought the fight. What else are you going to fight about? We're here to resolve. We're here to reach agreement. You're not going to reach agreement by continuing to fight. Generally, that helps for most people. Not all. I'm not going to say that, everything that happens in mediation is successful. But I think for more people, it happens that way. It is more of a successful outcome. And they feel good about it. They feel real good because they are empowered to make their own agreement rather than have the judge make their agreement. You don't want a judge making your agreement and telling you what's going to happen. Judge doesn't know you. You're just another person in the judge's chambers. And so to be able to come up with your own agreement, I think is obviously the much, much better way of achieving that outcome.
That it makes total sense.
Yes.
It makes total sense.
Yes.
I'm a former NBA player, and I can remember, the point guards are the people on the team that are always mediating and doing all the things to keep everybody happy because they're distributing the ball. And I remember Kevin Johnson, a former All-Star, say, he became the mayor, and he says, I was always in politics. I was always a mayor because I was always dealing with different egos and personalities and trying to keep everybody moving in the right direction. Based on your career path, were you always a mediator coming up? Did you notice that or know that with your friends in college and your workplace, you were always the one kind of unifying people? Was that a trait already innate in you?
It happened a lot. I didn't know that at first, but it happened quite a bit. And people would come to me and talk about whatever issues, and I would listen and offer my opinion, and they seemed to accept that opinion and just grew from there. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoy helping people. I really enjoy helping people get to the next level of knowing themselves.
Right.
And that happens in therapy, and also happens in mediation, to realize that you can achieve certain things that with certain abilities, certain help, certain tools and techniques that we can develop, you can achieve those outcomes. And you're a better person for it. You're definitely
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I asked you that question because it's like you're not working. It's like you love what you do.
Yes.
So that's why I'm thinking it's a part of you, and you were one of those people that all your friends, they would come, and you're one of the guys they come to for advice.
Yeah, I feel I feel blessed that I've been doing this for a long time, and it doesn't feel like work. It just, I really enjoy doing this. And so I'm so happy that I've been able to do this for such a long time.
Yeah. And have you had situations, Gary, where clients, being any mediation session, where they both just go away unhappy? Sometimes they say, if both sides are unhappy, it's a good deal. I hear people say that. But in a divorce situation, dealing with the elderly and it's emotional, you want people to walk away feeling good about the experience and the end result.
Yes, I think so. And sometimes I think they get worn out. So they get resigned to the fact that, okay, let's just get this done. I don't care what the outcome is. And I don't want that to be an outcome for them. I want them to feel that it's a fair and equitable settlement, and that they can, move forward in a better way. I think that those people that walk away not feeling that way are people that really didn't want the divorce in the first place, are kind of still angry that the other person wants the divorce and doesn't want to be with me anymore. So I think that there's those kinds of things that enter into their thinking.
Right. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone looking for a mediator? What should they look for? How should they go about finding a mediator?
I think that as far as a mediator, somebody who they can relate to, somebody that they're comfortable in talking to, because they're going to be talking to someone that they don't know about very personal things. And that's not always easy. So I think that that's a big part of it, that They have to feel comfortable in talking to me as the mediator. That's why I want to have a very comfortable environment, very comfortable setting. I'm not pushy. I don't want to create any pressure. I want them to be relaxed. I want them to dictate the pace. And so I think that approach helps them feel much more comfortable. Once you're comfortable in that setting, you're more likely to participate fully. And that's really what I'm trying to achieve.
Right. I don't know whether your game is on with me, but I'm very comfortable talking to you.
I'm very comfortable talking to you.
So are you ever interviewed, Gary, like for people coming in and they're just trying to figure you out and
Yes,
they interview you?
Absolutely. That happens.
Yes. You allow that?
They want to, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I want them to be comfortable. So they don't know me. They can come and they can ask me any questions. Usually it's a phone interview. Sometimes, very rarely do they come in person and interview me, but it's a phone interview. They're asking questions. They want to know my background. They want to know,
Sure.
My philosophy and how I approach things and so on. So I'm an open book with that. I want them to know that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Gary, how did you get started as far as, did you have a mentor or somebody through your career path, and we're focused on mediation, where you actually kind of, somebody either took you under your wing or you saw someone and you said, I think I want to go down that path? Did you have those experiences?
I did. It's very interesting that I never ever thought that I would ever do private practice. I didn't even know what it was about. And so one day I was working at Planned Parenthood. And so there was this woman talking about that she was doing private practice. And I was listening and I asked her, what was this all about? And she told me what it was about. And she gave me the name of this gentleman. And I called him up and he invited me in and he set me up with an office and he referred people to me and started me out. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. He always told me, you have to become autonomous. You have to become autonomous. Wow. One day he walked in and he says, I'm no longer going to do this anymore. You're on your own. Oh, my goodness. So that was an eye opener. But I never really looked back because at that point in time, I had the experience.
Right. Yeah, and, you're right.
He was just so instrumental in guiding me. And what a great guy. Yeah.
We all need that.
Absolutely.
Are there any young ones or people that you're mentoring today?
Not right now, but I have in the past. Yeah.
Got it.
Currently. Yeah.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, Gary, what would you like the audience to go away with based on our conversation? What are 2 things that you want to make sure that they walk away from this conversation and they remember you about what you have to say?
That I have a wealth of experience in dealing with family mediation, divorce mediation, elder mediation. I have a wealth of experience in dealing with all areas of psychotherapy, with all different populations, couples therapy, marital therapy, family therapy, individual therapy. I allow them to, like I say, dictate the pace. I want them to feel comfortable. I'm available. I feel like I go overboard. My wife tells me sometimes that I go way overboard in making myself available, but I want them to know that I'm in their corner, that I'm there to help them. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help them achieve their next step, whatever step that is. And so I'd like them to walk away with that and know that the experience was a very positive experience.
Well, one thing is for sure, just the comment you said about your wife says you go overboard, that means that you care about your clients. And that's a true testament that it is not work for you. It's a labor of love and you love what you do. And it comes out. I mean, it's coming out in this interview. So if anyone needs to reach Gary, you see on the website, it's Gary, Santucci, GarySantucci.com.
Yes.
He's located in Florida. What part of Florida are you in, Gary?
Just Fort Lauderdale, just outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm. Just outside of Fort Lauderdale, the Fort Lauderdale area. And you do mediation online in Florida as well.
And therapy online too.
And therapy online. Yep. Gary, it's been a great interview. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge and sharing it with me and the audience. And to the audience out there, welcome to it. Thank you for attending another show of Undiscovered Gems. And I'm sure with this interview from Gary Santucci that you're leaving with a lot of gems that you can take on into the future. Thank you for attending. And thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Undiscovered Gems with our host, Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds. Brought to you by Pods Entertainment Group.